Residential Site Valuation and Cost Approach, page 39. Allocation Method. The allocation method is a method of site valuation whereby the value of the land is determined by establishing a typical ratio of site value to total property value in an area. Then applying the same ratio to the subject property. In other words, the allocation method recognizes that the utility of the site and the utility of the structure both contribute to the value of a property. Here is an example of the formula. You have site value over total market value of property. Both of those equal allocation ratio for site. Step 1. Identify comparable data. Unimproved sites, improved sites. The improved and unimproved sales should be located within the same market area, such as a subdivision. Step 2. Identify the ratio of site value to improved value. Divide the site value by the improved value. Step 3. Site value indication. A range of value may be possible if several scenarios are examined. Example: an appraiser needs to establish a land value for a highest and best use analysis in an older established neighborhood. However, the subject market has not had any vacant land sales for many years. The appraiser finds 3 other similar market areas where there are both improved sales and unimproved sales. These market areas are as follows. You have improved sale, unimproved sale, allocation ratio. Sale number 1. Its improved sale value at $200,000, unimproved sale at $50,000. Allocation ratio 25%. Sale number 2. Improved sale at $240,000, unimproved sale at $60,000. Allocation ratio is 25%. Sale number 3. Its improved sale at $250,000, unimproved sale at $65,000, allocation ratio 26%. Based on the mode of the data, the appraiser would probably conclude that 25% 1/4 ratio would be a reasonable allocation ratio to apply to the subject, which the appraiser has already concluded has an improved value of $225,000. $225,000 multiplied by 25%, 1/4 equals $56,250. The indicated site value would be $56,250. Points about ratios. There are 2 important points for you to understand about the allocation method ratios. First, the appraiser would gather data on as many comparable sales as possible to establish an allocation ratio for any given area. A large number of calculations are needed to ensure the accuracy of the numbers. Second, it is important to understand that these ratios can change over time. This depends on the desirability of the area, how fast it is growing, and the amount of vacant or undeveloped land that is available to satisfy market demand. The exact features or location of a lot are also a factor. When the allocation method is used for residential land in newer subdivisions or commercial properties in areas where there are lots of vacant land available for development, the ratios stay relatively consistent. However, the ratios still are subject to change over time. In fact, the National Association of Home Builders, NAHB, reports that site value represented about 11% of total property value just after World War II, while the number is around 35% today. If the site ratio goes higher than this, lenders become cautious when making a loan on a structure because a higher site ratio indicates that the primary loan value is for the land. Typically, the higher the site value, the more superior the improvements. Analysis will help determine if a proposed improvement may not fit with the neighborhood. If not, a lack of conformity may be present, resulting in regression. When the ratios are used for commercial properties in highly developed areas where there is little, if any, undeveloped land, the ratios must be recalculated more frequently. As the structure ages, the ratios will change. Deterioration causes an older building to be worth less than the land over time. As an area continues to grow in desirability, the land becomes increasingly valuable for its inherent worth, regardless of what is currently on the land. The ratios will climb, and eventually the ratios get to a point where the land is more valuable than the structure that sits on it. This is common when residential land is rezoned for commercial purposes. But this can happen anytime new development comes to an area. If they really want the land in that particular location, people are often willing to tear down the present improvement. This increase in site value ratio is less common for residential land, but it can happen in some situations. An example would be site values for unusually desirous lots in certain locations or with unusual features, such as waterfront lots, ravine lots, lots with a lake, lots with a specific view, etc. This can also happen in communities that are landlocked and have no more room to grow or annex additional land. If someone wants to live in the community, they may buy an older house and tear it down. Note that if there are not enough comparable sales to establish an allocation ratio, sometimes it is acceptable to establish a ratio based on other data. For example, tax records and assessed values of properties can give an indicated ratio. Extraction method. The extraction method is a method of site valuation that takes the depreciated cost of property improvements and subtracts the cost from the total improved market value of the property to result in land value. There are two situations where this method is extremely useful. The extraction method is most commonly used for new construction. By taking the total market value of a completed, page 41, property and subtracting the cost of the improvement, the resulting amount is the site value. Step 1. Calculate the value of the improvements. Actual building costs if being used in a new construction. Depreciated improvement value in existing properties. Demolition costs if highest and best use would be as vacant. Step 2. Site value indications. Subtract the value of the improvements from the total improved property value. Example, the appraiser appraises a 1,850 square foot single family house for $165,000. Using the extraction method, she establishes the site value by subtracting the depreciated improvements from the improved value. Costing services indicate that the house will cost $77 per square foot to reproduce. The physical depreciation is estimated at 10%. The as-is value of other site improvements is estimated at $5,000. So you have your 1,850 square foot gross living area multiplied by $77 per square foot equals $142,450. Minus 10% depreciation, so that's minus 14,245. Depreciated value is $128,205 plus other improvements, so you add $5,000. Your total is $133,205. So you go 165,000 minus 133,205 equals $31,795. The indicated site value would be $31,795. Extra note: know the math. Extraction method to get to land. Study this. Also, the extraction method is useful for existing properties when the value is primarily for the site and not the structures on it. For example, you could apply the extraction method to a piece of rural farmland to figure the value of a large 100-acre tract of land with a small farmhouse on it. Take the total market value of the property and subtract the value of the house. Another example would be a property where the building has been condemned as uninhabitable. In this case, the structure is not contributing any value to the land, but rather would incur a demolition cost, which would have to be subtracted from the market value to arrive at a true value for the land. Land residual method. The land residual method is a method of site valuation that attributes a certain part of the income produced by a property to the building or other improvement, then attributes the remaining income, the residual, to the land. By using an overall capitalization rate, the value of the land is then calculated. This method is useful when the value of the building or improvement is known as the value of the land, and the value of the land is unknown. The calculations for this method are not as complicated as these sound, but are beyond the scope of this text. The complexity is determining how much income is contributed by and thus attributed to the land compared to the total property. Just remember that this is a variation of an income method and primarily used for income producing commercial properties. Some of the income from the